This is going to be good today. Lord, I just thank you so much for your goodness and your mercy. Because even when it seemed like it wasn't there, I know it was there because it was preparing me for what was ahead. And we think that we can go forward without struggle. Struggle is a demonstration of how much you love. I said struggle is a demonstration of how much you love. I'll say it again. I know how much my wife loves me, not because of how good of a wife she was, but how willing she was to struggle because of me. And I watched her. And the Lord watches you. Not all struggle is bad. It just feels bad. Today we're going to come out of Hebrews. We're going to talk about gladiators. Hoorah. Gladiators. Assemble. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 says, and you're going to like this, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, whom is the author, He's the author and the finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before Him, endured the cross, despising the shame. So apparently shame was present with Him too, just like it is with us. And has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but faith was not built on aliens or angels. Faith was built on the backs of real, problem-making, mistake-making failures, filled with delays and problemed kind of people. People who had bad breath just like everybody else. But yet they continued to get up, is what made them different. They continued to fight the good fight, and they finished what they started. Therefore, seeing, as we are surrounded, seeing that we are surrounded with such a cloud of witnesses. You know, during those times back then, it was popular that the gladiators would come together and meet in an arena, a coliseum, an amphitheater to battle for their lives, to become the champion. Gladiators, for all to see who wanted to watch, would come together and cheer for their favorite gladiator as he fought for his life. Well, I want you to know that God has filled the stands and the coliseums of heaven with winners. And while you are here fighting your opponents, He has filled the stands of heaven with those people who have already fought and have had victory in their faith. And then He's like, how can you give out? How can you give up? How can you play out like that, seeing that you're being watched by such a group of witnesses as that? I mean, I would have tapped out. But because you were cheering me on. You know, sometimes you win because of who is watching. I go to the gym. I've been in the gym for 19 years. That is a tough discipline. We'll talk about that another day. And you can get in the gym and you can be lifting weights and pushing your body, breaking it down so that it can rebuild. Well, faith ain't no different. We'll get into that another day. And there'd be days in the gym that you'd just want to stop. But because there was a buddy there watching you, you found out that you could do 3 more reps than what you would have done if he wasn't watching. Or guys, you know those 2 girls that was working out in there? They was standing over there and you worked a little harder that day for some reason just because there was them 2 girls over there. You found out you could do a little bit more and go a little bit longer. You found out you could press a whole lot more than what you thought you could have because somebody was watching you. That's the spirit of the text. That all of those that have gone before you, prophets, priests, kings, heroes of the faith that we read about all of the time, they're watching you right now. The man that we all called Legion, he's watching. That woman with the issue of blood, she's watching. Those who raised their children in slavery, they're watching. The people who survived the Depression, they're watching. People who grew up with no electricity, no running water, no plumbing in the house, no air conditioning, no cold coffees or toilet paper. The luxuries of life, they didn't have that. But yet you're saying you can't make it. And that this is too hard. Well, how did they make it with so little and so much less, and you have so much more, and yet you're about to faint? I mean, I wonder. I mean, you want me to be real? You know, and I sometimes wonder, what does that mean to faint? And could it be possible that you're on the verge of fainting due to the weariness of the struggle that you're in? I mean, you've stopped thinking. You've stopped creating. You've stopped doing. And you've stopped moving forward in your life because you have become weary in well-doing. You know, in the gym, they call this muscle fatigue. Push to the limit. I'm done. So you don't start working in the gym to ever quit. It becomes a lifestyle. You carried too much weight for too long, so you are about to faint. Is that it? You're running out of gas? Can push no further. You've maxed out. Nothing left in the tank. Completely depleted. Burned out. You know what David said in Psalms 27:13? He said, I would have fainted. Oh, I come close to fainting. I almost left you. I'd have divorced you. I'd have died. I'd have been swallowed up in addiction, homeless, laying in the side of a ditch. Mama, I would have quit if I had not believed in the goodness of God. And that's a fact. Sometimes faith can revive you when you are about to faint. See, if you don't believe right, things ain't going to come out right. No wonder it says, therefore seeing. Therefore seeing. See, if you don't see right, you won't stand right. And the fact of the matter is, the voices that are in your head are fighting with everything they can against you to gain control of how you see your situation. Because how you see your situation is everything. Therefore, seeing that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Let us lay aside. Bring the scripture back up. Let us, I want you to see this. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin that does so easily ensnare us. Now, look, I love to be the kind of person that once I can see through things clearly, I like to get the mud out of the water, okay? And what I want to do here is I want you to notice that apparently weight and sin is not the same thing, even though we categorize as people everything into one clump because it's easier to do that. But weight and sin is not the same thing. It separates the two words. Every weight and the sin. See, procrastination is not a sin. Oh, but it's a weight. Avoiding your responsibilities, that's not a sin. Oh, but it's a weight. Lack of accountability, perhaps that's not a sin. Oh, but it's a weight. Not confronting issues because of your timidity, that may not be a sin, but my God, is it a weight? Lack of discipline, it's not a sin, but it's a weight. See, are you blaming God for things that are not working when the fact of the matter is it's the weights that you will not lay aside? I'm just asking. I mean, there are some things that you need to lay aside in order to become the champion that you're designed to become. I mean, Jesus didn't come here and go through all that He went through so that you could just go to church and continue to live the same life you've always lived. I mean, I hear you talking about being saved and all, and that's great. But I wonder, what are you saved from? I mean, if you're going to live the same as you were living before, then how have you changed? I mean, can you show me the you before Christ and the you after Christ? You know how you can be scrolling on Facebook or TikTok and there's one of these little video clips that they did with this lady that was all, nothing on. Just plain out of the shower. Just a regular old lady. And all of a sudden, they start putting this heavy foundation on, and these hands going in fast motion. Makeup, blending, eyelashes, drawing on eyebrows. All this stuff is going on, and shade here to bring the bone structure out here. The lips poofing, widen it out, widen the eyes, boom. And the next thing you know, you get to the end of the video, and this plain Jane woman looks like a model. You're like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. Well, show me your before and after pictures without the mask, because I want to see it. What are the differences between who you were before and who you are now? Or have you just added Jesus to the agenda of the life that you continue to live? I'm just asking. I was talking to a guy here a while back. We got into talking and reminiscing and rehearsing about some things that we used to do in the past, which I'm not going to get into today. I took this little vacation and this little trip talking about some things that I used to do and the way I used to live. And he was talking about his. And we went on and on for a little while. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, man, can we just talk about something else? Because I began to realize that all that me and this fella had in common anymore was our history, not our destiny. I mean, you do know about those people in life who appeal to the worst in you, not the best in you. And whenever they connect with you, they bring you down to where you used to be. Can you hear me? Amen. Now, if you try to say anything to them, they think you're acting better than them. The fact is, you just don't want to go back to where you used to be, which is where they are. But they think you're arrogant, but the fact is, they're ignorant. It's the fact. I get tired of it. People don't react the way they think you ought to react, so they call you arrogant. And they're talking to you about an area they don't know nothing about. But, suddenly I began to realize that this old fella, he didn't have any struggles. Because everything he feels like doing, he does. And I'm sitting there left in a struggle. Because when I would do good, can I just talk to you? Because when I would do good, evil is always present with me. I mean, I may not be all the way right, but I ain't all the way wrong neither. And so I must be prepared to wrestle between the contradictions of who I am and who I was. Let me say it again. I have got to be prepared to wrestle between the contradictions of who I am now and who I was then, despite what you see about me. I want to know, is it possible that the struggling souls like yourself and me, who struggle against who we were and who we are today, and every day we can become so tired of fighting and struggling that we would be on the verge of fainting? Is it possible? Not outside, inside. I mean, can I talk about the inside part for a minute? I mean, we can always deal with the performance on the outside, but the real struggle is on the inside. You see, the guy that's smiling in the light is only sustained by the guy who prays in the shadows. And what happens with living with contradictions is that there is always a struggle between the light in you and the dark in you. But I'm going to say that again. The he or the she that smiles in the light is only sustained by the he or she who prays in the shadows. And what happens with living with contradictions is that there is always a struggle between the light in you and the dark in you. I mean, if you give way to the dark and you go all the way down to the bottom, and some of us have experienced that before, and you go off and you do something real crazy like marrying a poser. That's right, marrying a poser. There's posers out there. Or marrying somebody crazy, or getting locked up in jail, or catching some disease, or chasing some worldly pleasure until it finally has its victory. You know, the fact is, we can never be arrogant because we are always just one bad, stupid decision away from losing everything that you have. There you are, struggling with the discipline, because whatever you yield yourself to the most is what you become. And the reason that old boy that I was talking to could talk about that crap all day long is because he yields to what I struggle with. And you can't talk to the joker because he'll just say things like, dude, you just need to let it go. You just need to let it go. There is no letting this go. It won't let me go. Goober? You don't know what you're talking about. And I want to know. Are you a yielder or are you a struggler? I just want to know. Because none of us are perfect, okay? Nobody masters this. There's only one master of this. The rest of us got to struggle it out. So if you're fighting causes weariness. And weariness can make you feel like you're going to faint. All because you're fighting. And you only fight because you struggle. And you only struggle because you refuse to give in to the lesser you so that you can become the greater you. And I'm here to tell you that all of the struggles and exhaustion, the people who live with the shame of not quite being where you're wanting to be because of the highs and lows of life, that there are people in the balconies and in the grandstands of heaven cheering you on. Prophets, they're cheering you on. Patriarchs, they're cheering you on. The warriors of the ages are cheering you on. The praying grandmas, the praying grandpas, they're watching you. The daddies who had a whole lot less, but yet they're still cheering you on. And you need to know that you came from warriors and fighters who have endured affliction and persecution and tough times and agonies and setbacks and failures and disappointments and opposition. Those who have gone before you that have prayed in the rain and in the ditch and danced in the storm just to see you get here and quit? Hell no. I ain't quitting. I might be about to faint, but I ain't quitting. I ain't going to give it up. Having done all to stand, I will stand anyway. And even when I feel like I'm standing alone, I will always remember that the balconies are filled with all of those who have suffered before me, and they're cheering me on. Now, whether it be in your natural heritage, or whether it be in a spiritual heritage, if you can't seem to have the strength or the ability to claim anything where you are on your natural side, then you reach out. You reach out and claim it on your spiritual side, and you reach out and touch David or Esther or Ruth or Paul or Stephen or whomever it is that you need to touch, because they're watching you. Oh, with such a great cloud of witnesses. Devil, you thought I was going to faint, but I didn't. There are too many people watching me to let myself faint. So let us not grow weary in well-doing. Why? For we shall reap. We shall reap in due season. We shall reap if we don't quit. Is there anybody in here that's been sowing in tears? Well, you shall reap in joy. Sorrow may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. He that endures till the end shall be saved. See, the race is not just to the biggest and the fastest and the strongest. It's to those who endure till the end. You don't have to be that good at it, but you have to endure. You don't have to be a master gladiator that knows everything about everything, but you have to endure until the end. That's all. Let me close with this final scripture. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him.